Hello, MotoAmerica fans, and welcome to this latest edition of Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. I am Bice here in Central Ohio, and I'm joined by our communications manager in Southern California, Paul Carruthers. And it is 1 week before the Daytona round and the Daytona 200 and the other support classes that are going to be there. And Paul, I mean, it's so weird, right? You know, you just it's here already. I can't even believe it, actually.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because it's a long ways off, and then all of a sudden it's here. It's like there's no in between, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, we
Yeah,
prepped for it.
it kind of sneaks up on you, but I'm really looking forward to getting on the plane and getting down there. The weather looks like it's going to be nice, and get some sunshine and some warmth. That seems weird saying that because I'm in Southern California, but we've had a bit of a rough winter. It's actually sunny today, but it's for our weather, it's been chilly and a lot of rain. So it's good because we need it, but I'm sick of it. So it'll be nice to get down there and have some good weather.
Yeah, and I mean, fingers crossed that, you know, we had some touchy weather. I mean, we got everything in without any problem, but it added a little bit of an element last year. Hopefully we're due for some sunshine all the way through, which is normally the way it is at Daytona. And you've gone to so many of them, you know that for sure, Paul.
Yeah, I've gone to a lot of them. That's for damn sure. I was actually when we announced we were doing the thing for John Ashmead, the lap of honor that Michael Barnes is going to do. That was 1989, and that was the only Daytona 200 I missed. And that's that's working for Cycle News and as an adult, and then obviously I was there as a kid starting like in 1971 and 2 and all those years as well. But yeah, it's always nice to get down there, and it has that opening day type feel, which it should. So yeah, it's good. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I mean, one other thing, you know from all the times you've gone, how many people from across the pond or around the world go to that compete in that race. And I mean, last year we had a fair number from some other countries, but this year we have even more. And it's cool that it's 15, 16 countries, something like that we've got, in the 200. Of course, we've also got Mission King of the Baggers, Mission Super Hooligan National Championship, and of course the REV'IT Twins Cup Championship. But for the Daytona 200, it's pretty cool that we've got people from all around the world that are competing in it, just kind of like it used to be.
Yeah, it was always a real big international race, and like you said, well, what's kind of cool about it when you think about it, that people in Europe are probably closer to Daytona than I am as far as the length of the trip, or close to it. So it's not that hard for them to get to Florida. If we did, Laguna Seca or something would be a lot more difficult for them. But yeah, it's always been an international event, and there's a long list of international winners, and still mostly Americans have won, which is kind of cool. I think the last non-American was Chaz Davies, and he actually won when Josh Hayes won and had a crankshaft issue and all that stuff. But
that's right.
Yeah, it's always fun. It's going to be good to see everybody again. It's like the first day of school,
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be great. And speaking of first day of school and one of the riders that's going to be there, so a press release came out this morning about Dominic Doyle and what his plans are for the 2023 season. He's been associated with Colin Barton from Barton Racing for a few years. So we've actually got Colin and Dominic on, and we're going to do a two guest show right now. They're side by side in Colin's office in New York City. And Dominic actually works for Colin, as well as is associated with him in a lot of other ways, but he's also out there in the handling sheetrock and all kinds of stuff for Colin and riding and racing motorcycles. But we're going to talk about his deal this year. So let's bring these guys on. Welcome, Colin and Dominic, to the show.
Hey, how's it going, guys? How you doing?
Really good. So Dominic, you're from South Africa. You live in, I guess I didn't realize are you in Columbus, Indiana? Is that actually where you are?
So I've been living in Columbus probably for the last 5 years, and now for the last couple of weeks I've been staying in New York with Colin and just trying to make this my home base right now.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what I was going to get at. So I live about a half an hour from Columbus, Ohio, and Columbus, Indiana, I've heard of, but never been there. But it's cool that you're right there in the Midwest, and now, boy, you're getting your taste of being in New York City. You still got your South African accent a little bit. Are you picking up any kind of an Irish accent or any kind of a New York City accent at this point?
No, I'm trying not to. Just words, I'd say. Words mostly, not any accent. Just
They all start with an F.
For the most part.
Oh, for sure.
That's a construction thing. That's not just me.
All right.
So Dom, what do you do for Colin? You know, in this realm, in the non-racing realm, all kinds of things, whatever he asks.
Yeah, pretty much anything that he wants me to do. I'm kind of trying to learn to become a carpenter at the moment.
That's kind of cool. That's cool. We didn't get a real good, when we talked to Colin separately on another podcast, we kind of asked him what his business is all about. And we knew it was construction, obviously Barton Construction, but it sounds like it's more interiors and things like that. But when you say construction, Dom, are you talking about sheetrock and taping, or are you talking about putting in studs, or what exactly do you do?
Yeah, pretty much all of the above: sheetrock, framing, all that type of stuff. I'm learning to do all of it at the moment.
That's good.
Sean, we concentrate, or we focus on interior renovation. And I try to avoid doing I've done a couple of small new jobs right out of the ground. They completely consume me as far as my own personal time, not personal time, but my own time personally onto a job site. So I can tend to manage 6 or 7 interior renovations at the same time by visiting them every other day, or if I only have to go to a job for an hour when it's a small interior renovation job.
Okay.
If you do a big job that's out of the ground and it's 4 stories or more, you tend to have to spend at least half a day there or even more. So I don't like to put all my eggs in one basket, so to speak. So it's more, my niche is high-end acoustics, which is ceilings, high-end ceilings, drywall framing, high-end ceilings, acoustical ceilings that absorb sound, which are like Pyrock and Star Silent. There's quite a big demand for them in commercial spaces. So
is it to stop the sound coming in or the sound going out?
No, it's actually it stops the sound from traveling around and bouncing around inside the space.
Oh, okay.
And deadens the noise of it. It's not so much anymore because actually, believe it or not, because of COVID, the offices have taken a big hit as far as people actually coming to work anymore. I think through COVID, the owners of the buildings found out that they were able to have their staff work from home, which is a lot less headaches all around. You know, they're getting smaller spaces. But back in the day, especially on a trading floor, you'd have, you know, you might have 40 or 50 people on a big 10,000 square foot trading floor that would be constantly talking. So you need sound absorption panels, baffles, and that's outside of the realm of just regular sheetrock ceilings and drop ceilings and stuff like that. But that's essentially what I do. And then I GC some jobs myself directly for some clients that I do the full build outs where I hired all the other trades. But yeah, I mean, it'd be nice for Dom to learn, you know, the carpentry end of it. So, you know, when he comes back in between races, he's not just driving a van or being a laborer. I want him to learn, you know, how to use a measuring tape and how to frame and how to sheetrock and that kind of stuff, you know.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's good to have that kind of skill. So Dominic, let's talk a little bit about, so you came into the MotoAmerica series, I think in 2017, and you raced in Junior Cup to start with, but then you transitioned to Twins Cup. You had a lot of success in Junior Cup, and you've had some success Twins Cup. You raced for a little while in Super Sport, but this will be your second year racing in Twins Cup and second year on an R7. Of course, you were on a Barton Racing R7 last year, and now you're making the switch. And as the announcement came out about it, it's Team Iso with Nobi Iso, who used to be with Veloce Racing. So the bike, obviously, it's the same model of bike, but a little bit different. And I know with Chuck Giacchetto prepping the bikes, and I know he and Ed Sullivan, the crew chief for Westby, who I think is also racing Twins Cup at Daytona. They do quite a bit of research and development on these R7s. So have you ridden that bike yet? And are they doing some things with it?
Yeah, him and Chuck definitely do a lot of development in off season. I've got to ride it 3 times now. I rode it at the end of last year at Barber, and then I did a test in Homestead the end of January, and I did a test at Jennings the other day. So I've got a little bit of time on it, and everything's been going pretty good. And kind of ready to go for Daytona.
So the bike this year, you know, one thing about Twins Cup is we call it a tuner class, but you can do a lot more to it. I mean, there are rules, there's things to follow, but it seems like the one thing they're trying to do with that bike is get as much air into the air box as they can. I mean, I've seen some things that some of the teams have done with 3D printed stuff. And I think I saw you on a bike that had a weird snorkel out the side. So were you riding that bike, and what was that thing sticking out? Was that trying to get air to the airbox?
Yeah, so they've just been trying some stuff, like in regards to all that. I mean, I don't really know in particular. I'm just kind of riding the bike, and they're getting the data. So just testing a couple of different things and seeing if they work, seeing what doesn't work.
Now, I know you've been, excuse me for a second there. I know you've been training pretty hard because we follow each other on Strava and also on social media. You did the half marathon. You did a lot of your training on a treadmill, right? Because of the weather?
Yeah, quite a bit of training on the treadmill because I was in Indiana and it's really cold. Other than that, I spent like 2 weeks before the half marathon in Florida, so I did get to do some road running before the half marathon. But yeah, I dipped my foot into some running stuff and kind of maybe want to do a couple more half marathons this year. I kind of like it. It's pretty fun.
It's pretty new to you though, right? I mean, you haven't always run.
I've run here and there, but the long distance stuff is kind of new. But my dad and my mom have always done like half marathon. My dad's done like a half Ironman and stuff, so it's always like been something I've been interested in and wanted to do myself.
And then also when you get on the bike, you're like, okay, I can kick their ass because they're not in shape and I am.
No, that's a part of it for sure. It's good to have good way to train, and it helps that I enjoy it. So.
Dominic, so that photo that accompanied the press release, speaking of running, are you thinner than you've ever been, or is that about the way you've been?
It's probably about the same weight I've been, but I mean, I'm probably a little bit leaner, but maybe a little bit more muscle. So I mean, muscle weighs more than fat, but
right.
So probably I'm about the same, but I think I am a little maybe look a little skinnier.
And then it's been a couple of years since you had that wrist issue. I think it's been a couple of years. How are you completely healthy going into the season now? Feeling good?
Yeah, no problems, nothing to complain about.
I think that him looking a bit skinny is the least of our worries because he's eating halal food off the roach coaches in New York City right now.
Oh God!
Off the construction site. He actually came home last night to the house. He eating halal food last night? Yeah, he came home with halal food last night and he demolished it. If I ate what he ate last night, I'd be asleep for 2 days. So
that's awesome.
He's going to be skinny for long.
High metabolism or something. So Colin, I want to talk about what your program has been over the past few years. Of course, you've had some different riders. Dominic was part of it. Last year, you had a rider that joined for a couple of rounds towards the end of the season. And then we weren't sure what the plan was this year. Thought maybe Dominic would race with you. He's going to be with Team Iso. But then I thought I saw something on Facebook. There's a kid from up in New Hampshire. I don't know him, but Eli Block. Can you talk about that a little bit and how that kind of came about?
Yeah, sure. So let's go back to the start. So I got together with Mike at the end of last season. Mike's Skowronek from Triple Strong Racing, and I had pretty much said, listen, I need to take. I'm not getting away from the track. I just need to take the time out from being owning a team and being directly involved with putting together the program. So I was figuring out what we were going to do, and if I could get someone maybe to work with Mike, and then what we were going to do. So in the last quarter of 2022, I was figuring out what was best for Dom the following year, because that was most importantly was to get Dom onto something good with us, or onto something even better or as good with somebody else. So I'll be honest with you, there's not too many people at the track that I would like to just say, here, Dom, pick Dom, that's the right place to go. And what I did was I actually was reaching out to Chuck Giacchetto, and at the same time, Chuck Giacchetto was reaching out to me. He wanted to know what I was doing because he was interested in Dom, and I wanted to know what kind of programs he had, because I was interested in him maybe doing with some Dom. So it absolutely all fell together overnight. And then the whole thing with Veloci, and I don't know the circumstance of it. To be honest with you, I don't really care. It's none of my business. But the whole thing about Novi and Veloci not doing anything together anymore. I don't know. Is Veloci even doing it next year? I don't think they are.
It doesn't look like it. We've seen entries, and it looks like Team, Veloci, and obviously Nobi's doing his own thing this year. So yeah, that's what it seems like. We're not really sure either. So
yeah. So it all kind of fell into place, and then through more talking with Chuck as far as exactly what the situation was going to be, and then he told me that it would be Nobi, which is, I think Nobi's a great guy. He's got tons of experience with riding and setting up bikes and the whole lot. I think he's more than capable of coaching Dom as much as he is of setting up the bike with other people to work with. Ed's working with him too, right?
Yeah.
So
Giacomo and
it's Giacomo, which it's essentially Chuck, Ed, and Nobi. So to me, that was a no-brainer. They're putting Dom on a really, really good bike. Dom's familiar with the bike. He's familiar with the power because it's essentially the same motor. Because at the end of last season, we were kind of struggling because we got off to a bad start at the start of last year, just getting that bike built, because we didn't know what we were going to be doing with the new rules with the 750s. We didn't know what we were going to do with the ZX6 anymore. And then it happened so late that we said, you know what, let's just jump on the R7 package. We got a couple of bikes, we built them. We kind of struggled to get the bike right, but eventually when we did get the bike to go, we got all the power and we got the bike set up right. It showed in Dom, being able to get, he got a podium on it, and he was getting results on it. And that was, unfortunately, it was a bit late in the game, but it got us to a point where Dom is good with the bike, he's comfortable with the bike, and it's the exact same motor pretty much that Chuck is putting them on this year. Slightly different setup. I think the front end is a little bit different, but not that much different. So he's getting onto a bike that he rode for a whole season. So to me, it all sounded like this is good for Dom, and of course, being a little selfish, is good for me to be able to back away too, because I'm getting very busy in work. I'm taking on some. I'm actually doing work for the military. I do work for the Army, Air Force, and Navy. So I'm after taking on a couple of jobs that I really need to be able to stay here, and I can't be committed to going away. Put it that way. I'm not as flexible as I was over the last 2 or 3 years. Put it that way.
Right.
So a lot of everything happening all at the same time kind of answered a lot of questions and made it easy for me to make the decision. So that's why Dom is where he is now. And then on the other end, Eric Block came to me and asked me what I was going to do with the junior program. Was I doing anything? Now, Eric had no idea that I was looking to take in a sabbatical, sort of take a year off, so to speak. So I said, you know what, Eric, I'm be honest with you, I'm stepping back, and and I think I've expressed this to you before, Sean. I'm kind of done with the Junior Cup in the sense of don't get me wrong, I like helping out the kids and all of that, but it's actually quite a lot of work, and it's something that I kind of don't want to do anymore, and I don't think Mike wants to do it anymore either. And especially, and no disrespect to any parents out there, but it's a different animal than super sport or twins, because you are dealing with people handing off their kids to you, so to speak. So
right.
There's a lot of interaction with parents, which sometimes it's not all that good. And I'm trying to avoid being negative on the parent end of it, and it's not always a negative thing. And sometimes it's great. That being said, Eric asked me, would I sell him a bike? So I sold him one of, I think it was Batty's leftover bike from Levy Batty. And speaking to Eric and then speaking to Eli Block, his son that's going to ride the bike, when I saw this Loudon Classic coming up, I was kind of excited about it, because I've been up in Loudon I was up in Loudon in the early 20s, 2001, or in the early 2000s, should I say, 2003 and 4.
I thought he was going to say 1920s.
Yeah, right. Black and white on a Brook Superior.
Yeah, I was there. No.
So I turned around and I said, you know what? Let's put something together, because I would like to be involved in Loudon. It's just, I know it's only up the road for me. I know a lot of guys are going to be up there. So I'm supporting Eli Block, and he's going to be riding on a Barcon racing ECB Ninja 400 in the Junior Cup at Pittsburgh in Jersey, and then he's going to be riding in Loudon for the Classic. which I believe is the week before the Ridge. I'm not sure the date. I think it's June.
Father's Day weekend. That's kind of the traditional time for that thing. I think it's.
But it's
yeah.
There's actually quite an entry list on it. To be honest with you, it's going to be quite an exciting race.
Yeah. So obviously Eli.
That's exactly how that's how it's all come to where it is right now.
Yeah, and Eli won't be obviously for the Classic. It's a super sport based race now, right? So he'll be on what a ZX6.
He's going to be on he's going to be on an R6.
Oh, an R6. Okay. Yeah, and I mean, heck, we've seen there's going to be Josh Herron and Josh Hayes is going to be coming up there. There's quite a few of them. Dominic, are you going to try it?
No, I don't really have anything to go and ride there. And it's the week before the Ridge, I don't know how great idea it is to. Logistical wise, it just doesn't really make sense.
One of my first questions to Chuck, after we kind of decided that this is where we're going to go with Dominic this year, was, hey Chuck, do you think would it be okay if Dom was to ride in the Daytona 200 and the Loudon Classic? And the answer was swiftly no.
Wow.
Well, I can understand that too. Nobby and Chuck are going to invest a lot of time into Dominic in the twins package, and and then everything else is secondary to it. And I expected that. To be honest with you, I kind of expected that reaction. I mean, if Dominic was riding for me this year and someone said, "Hey, can Dominic ride my bike in the 600 and the Loudon Classic?" I would have said no. Or the 200. I'd probably say no too.
Yeah.
Well,
listen, the only reason I said wow is because we know that Chuck Giacchetto, I mean, he's from, I think, Beverly, Mass, and he cut his teeth at Loudon, and he's been around the Loudon Road Racing Series for years and years. But I guess maybe that's one of the reasons. He knows how tricky that track is.
Well, listen, yeah, I know. I mean, Paul, you were saying you've been up there back in the day. It is a tricky track. It's a very challenging physical track.
Yes.
And I think it's going to bring out, it's a lot more than just being able to go fast on a bike compared to other flatter tracks in the sense of the actual surface. It's a very, very physical, demanding track. There's going to be it's body strength is going to be a lot to do with it. But although I don't know that it's that long, it's only 25 laps, right?
I don't really know.
I don't know that it's not like the Daytona is what, maybe 60 laps?
200 miles.
200 miles.
57, 60 laps.
Yeah. So I think Loudon is going to be half the amount of laps, but there's nowhere to rest at Loudon. It's not a track where you get to rest anywhere. You're constantly, it's very, very physical track. And then I heard that Josh Herron and Ducati are getting together. They're developing a bike just to do the race. I don't know how true that is. I mean, I'm sure it's a great story, but
that's where Wayne Rainey broke his elbow.
Yeah, well, I was up there, Paul. You remember this? I was up there the year the AMA guy said he wouldn't go out on the track.
Yeah.
They refused to go out on it. That was like, I'm going to say it was like Miguel Duhamel and Jake Semke and them boys and Nicky Hayden, God rest them.
Yeah.
They were all saying, this we're not going out on the track.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I used to live about 45 minutes from there, Colin, and I stopped going up there about 98, but that was around the time, Miguel got hurt, Thomas Wilson got hurt one year. I think their safety's improved quite a bit since then. But
no, absolutely. But
kind of a bowl.
We're talking about 24 years ago, yeah.
Yeah. No, exactly. And obviously those were 750s back then. I mean, now, of course, they're on super sport bikes, which are certainly fast, but, I know they've done a lot to help with that. It's one of those issues. I mean, it's kind of like Daytona, it's a super speed, well, that's not a super speedway but it's a bowl, there's some walls because it's primarily a NASCAR track and it makes sense in some ways, but, it'll be an interesting race, but I can understand why Chuck and Nobby would want to keep you focused on the R7, Dominic. That makes complete sense. So now let me ask you about since it's been your second year on the R7 and second year in Twins Cup, and there are a lot of riders that are now in Twins Cup. It's very, very competitive now. So what are you thinking about that class this year? It's quite a challenge, right?
I mean, I think last year was pretty much the same. I mean, pretty stacked class, and nothing's really changed for this year. There's just a couple new guys in it, a couple guys are left. So I think it's going to be kind of the same type of deal. Stacked class, lots of guys at the front, and I mean, I'm just ready to go and get some good results.
Yeah, and so obviously it's next week. You'll be good to go with the bike and down there. And Ed Sullivan, in fact, your teammate on that team who's crew chief for Westby Racing? I know he's entered into the Twins Cup class.
I'm not 100% sure. I don't think he would per se be my teammate because it is. So the team is Team Iso, supported by Moto and Yamaha USA, and I think Ed will probably, I don't know, ride for maybe his own team, SE Composites or Moto. So I mean, kind of similar interest there, but I don't think he'll be like directly my teammate.
Okay, that makes sense. I understand that.
But I'm not 100% sure either. So.
Right. Well, yeah, I'm not either. That's why I'm asking you. But anyway, between the two of us, we'll figure it out. So, one mention about Chuck. I mean, Colin talked about how he and Chuck talked about, the program and the R7. He's kind of become a little bit of a czar of that bike. I mean, he sort of is the one to go to for a lot of those, I think Yamaha even has a relationship with him to make that happen. So it's very important for Yamaha to have that R7 do well this year too. So I'm sure you've felt that influence of the Yamaha Motor Corporation being involved too. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. Chuck does, I guess, he's been doing a lot of development over the past, 2.5 years or so with the R7. So I'm pretty confident in whatever he's putting underneath me. And yeah, Yamaha has come on board to support the team, and it's great. I haven't had any factory support before, and I think it'll be a good year.
So what do you think about Daytona International Speedway in general? I mean, we've done some stories about the physics of being out there on the 31-degree banking, and we obviously saw what happened last year with Anthony Mazziato, coming up off the wall a little bit in that one Twins Cup race. So what do you think of racing there and how it feels when you're out there, or even walking into that infield and seeing what that place is like? I mean, it's got to be pretty awe-inspiring, isn't it?
It definitely is an awesome too, and just the history behind it. As for the racing part, it's a fun track. It's kind of, I'd say, it levels the playing field quite a lot with the draft and stuff. So it's always to be expected a big group at the front, and it's kind of anybody's race. Whoever plays it the smartest and plans the draft right for the end of the race.
I don't want you to give away your strategy, but tell us, where do you want to be on that last lap coming out of the bus stop chicane?
Probably third or fourth, but I mean, you don't really know until we're there. It's hard to position yourself, but I mean, I'm gonna probably position myself as best I can to get a good draft from the chicane down to the finish line, and just got to pull out at the right time so no one can really redraft you. But I'm sure I can get some tips from Brandon. He's seemed to get that pretty down.
Okay, well, I'm looking at the results from last year at Daytona, and Dominic, you obviously didn't get off to a good start. One of the races you DNF'd. I'm not sure the position on the other one. Would you get 10 points or something? So it wasn't the start you would hope to get, and it also kind of set the tone at least a little bit for the early season until you like Colin said before, you guys got things turned around, then you had a good end result. Daytona is not everything, but it would be better. I mean, to get a good start and be feeling good about yourself and get some confidence, it's kind of important that you have two good races there.
Yeah, so like Colin mentioned, we kind of on the back foot going into the season last year, and didn't have everything completely ready with the bike. So I think this year we're at a pretty strong point with the bike and ready to go and get a good result in both of those races at Daytona.
So I want to ask Colin a question, and actually both you guys. So you'll be at Daytona next week, Dominic. The week after that, on the following Friday is March 17th. So Colin, you know what March 17th is, especially for you, especially in New York. Does your entire company just completely shut down on that day and you guys go crazy and drink green beer, or what happens?
No, that's them Muppets up in Chicago. There's no Green Rivers down here in New York or green beer. It's black beer. It's called Guinness. No, actually, Paddy's weekend is the weekend after. 7th
Right.
March is the Friday before the following weekend.
That's right. So, and being that it's a Friday, I mean, do you do anything at Barton Racing or with your Irish heritage? I mean, is it a crazy big deal for you to celebrate that? And do you get
No, not really. You know what? Everyone's Irish on Paddy's Day in New York.
Yeah. Well,
Kind of
that's
amateur
true.
night.
A bunch of cab drivers from Pakistan, Afghanistan, and India are Irish on that day. It's just shit show. It's a lot of fun, though. Don't get me wrong. Actually, I don't know. You guys are probably not aware of this, but we have a competition called the Six Nations, and what it is Ireland, England, Scotland, Wales, France, and Italy, and it's a rugby tournament they have every year. And Ireland will be playing England on the Saturday after it for the Grand Slam, which is to win every match in the tournament. Everyone plays everyone once, so you've got 5 matches. So that's going to be a big day the next day, the Saturday. We're playing England for the Grand Slam. We're playing Scotland the weekend of Daytona, and if we can beat them, I know it's not Scotland, we've already played them. But yeah, there's a big rugby game the day after. And in fact, back in the day, they used to have box night in the garden, and there was always an Irish card. They used to have a boxing match at the weekend. I think this year they're actually having the fire department are going to be boxing against the fire department against the NYPD, which is going to be pretty cool.
Doesn't New York City have
That's another thing, by the way, I forgot to mention that earlier on. I'm going to be at Pittsburgh and Eli Pittsburgh and Jersey with Eli Block, and I'm going to be continuing with the Wounded Warrior Project and the NYPD FDNY fundraiser. So we can all, I'm going to do it after 2 East Coast rounds anyway, at least.
Okay, yeah, that's good. And we know for sure every year at New Jersey Motorsports Park, and you with your vehicle and your Wounded Warriors, you've always put a lot into that tribute for 9/11 and the survivors or families of the survivors. So wait, Colin, now don't they have a big St. Patrick's Day parade in New York City? They do.
Yeah. It marches down up Fifth Avenue from 14th Street up to 70th Street, I think it is.
Do you guys watch it, or what do you do?
I actually used to march in it. I was part of the Dublin Society. I used to march in it years ago, but it gets a little old, My son does. Aaron will probably go in there now with Dominic and drink a load of beers.
There you go.
I don't know about that.
Ruin that training.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're gonna cut you guys loose, but it's really great to have both of you on this podcast together. And Colin, we wish you well. We'll see you down the line at Pittsburgh. And what was the other one you said? I'm sorry.
I'm gonna be at as many races as I can, but I'm gonna be there actually racing with Eli at Jersey and Pittsburgh.
Now, you coming to Daytona or not?
I was hoping to get down to Daytona, but due to a commitment with a work team, I don't know if I can. I might be there. I'm trying very hard.
All right.
If I do get down there, I'll probably just fly in on Friday night.
Okay.
But I am trying to get down. If I don't get down to Daytona, I would most definitely be at Atlanta.
Okay. Well, that's good. Good. We'll see. If not Daytona, at Atlanta. And for sure, Dominic, we'll see you next week. Combine, see how your setup looks, and wish you luck for this year. I mean, it's going to be quite a season. And, that Twins Cup is really, for me, very near and dear to my heart. So I like to see what you guys can do in that class. So anyway, I think we'll wrap it up here. And I just want to say, so next week, obviously, is the Daytona 200 and also the Mission King of the Baggers Championship and Mission Super Hooligan National Championship, and Dominic Doyle and the REV'IT Twins Cup Championship. They'll all be in action. And you can tune into Live Plus, MotoAmerica Live Plus, to follow that, our streaming subscription service. It's the only way that you can see the Daytona 200 this year is through Live Plus. And it's great coverage because you'll get to see everything from most of the practice sessions, the qualifying for sure, the 200, and, all the races and qualifying in all the other classes. So hope to see everybody there. And thanks again, Colin and Dom and Paul.
Thanks a lot for having us, guys.
Hope to see you.
Always a pleasure.
I'll definitely see Dom.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Hopefully I'll see you guys next weekend. If not, definitely.
Take care.
All right. Cheers, guys. Thanks a lot.